March 23rd, and we are back on Zoom. That means that we are not in the same place anymore, which I am sad about, but I am excited to get back on our normal routine after an unbelievable week at the World Baseball Classic. I'm RM Layton. He's Peter Apple. This is the Just Baseball Show. Peter, we're going to talk about the National League East today. We're going to preview the National League East today, but we would be nuts to start anywhere other than the World Baseball Classic final, which I think was everything you could have possibly wanted out of a ball game between USA, between Japan, and the ending. It's been well documented, but man, I felt like I was dreaming. That was one of those moments where it was like, there's no way this is really happening, right?
Yeah, no way this is really happening. Just shout out Team Japan. Became the second team in World Baseball Classic history to go undefeated and win the championship all the way through. The other team was the 2013 Dominican Republic team. We had the opportunity to go to all the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the finals. And what we were expecting, or at least what I was expecting, was maybe the greatest game we've ever seen. And that was after the Venezuela game versus US. That was after that incredible semifinals game. So there have been so many great games. And the only issue was, and I made this joke on Twitter, that it was the Japan Tampa Bay Rays taken on the USA Washington Nationals. And the reason I made that joke was Japan went with a bullpen game instead of maybe starting Yu Darvish and then going to Ohtani. They really went methodically, kind of similar to the Tampa Bay Rays. And the reason I compared to the USA to the Washington Nationals was they weren't hitting at all. But we got the home run from Schwarber late. The game ended 3-2, and it ended on maybe the greatest at-bat in World Baseball Classic history, maybe in Major League history, considering it was Mike Trout, who will probably go down as a top 10 player of all time, and Shohei Ohtani, who might be the most talented player of all time, and their teammates. All in all, an incredible experience.
I mean, that final at-bat, just to specifically go to that, the way Shohei Ohtani also leading into that final inning, right, to shut the door. We knew that they were going to be kind of weird with Ohtani. We talked about that with the episode prior. We thought it might be a bullpen game. We weren't quite sure how they were going to use Imanaga, who also looked spectacular, by the way. I think he exceeded all of our expectations.
Absolutely.
He definitely rose to the moment. The velo was up. He was feeling himself in that game, which is what happens sometimes on that big stage. But that was the thing, too, with Team Japan is, the heart rate seems slow for these guys, which is pretty amazing given that I feel like I don't want to say that it means more to Team Japan, but it almost feels like it's a little bit more important when you're on the other side of the world.
I'll say it for you. I think it meant more for Team Japan.
Okay.
I mean,
okay,
it did.
Cool.
It was obvious. It just, you could see it in the Japanese fans. Television ratings would prove that to be so.
Yeah, of course.
This felt like their Super Bowl, while in America it was still important.
It was important,
but social media, we saw the fans there.
It's not
but
the
it didn't
same.
feel like it was all or nothing. With America, it felt like we'd love to win. We are rooting for us to win, but we go home if we lose, and we don't lose sleep over it. In Japan, they might not sleep for a week if they ended up losing that game.
No, and that was what was amazing, is you could feel that importance from them, but they still kept the heart rate low.
No doubt.
They still were able to do everything that they needed to do. There was no like blunders or big mistakes or even bad at bats. I mean, that was the amazing thing about Team Japan. And USA played well. I understand that the bats were slow, but they had to see a different arm from a different arm slot every couple innings. To your point about the Rays, they had a guy coming from down here and then up here, and then, a lefty, then a righty. Like, it was really, really good managing as well by Kuriyama. But this was the coolest game because I think you got to see the two different styles of baseball. And Jack mentioned how much he likes the Japanese style of baseball. I think it's a really fun style of baseball. I think it's what Major League Baseball is trying to get towards again a little bit. So it was cool to see it on the big stage there. I want to just talk about Shohei because we've never seen somebody go back and forth from the bullpen to the dugout, back to the bullpen, then back to the dugout, because he was in the lineup and also had to warm up. Normally, he's a starting pitcher. So when you're a starting pitcher, you don't have to warm up. You're good to go. You're in the game. You're fresh. You're ready to go. But when you got to get your arm ready while also being in the lineup, that's exactly why we never see Shohei Ohtani relieve, also because he's one of the best starters in the game. But it was amazing to see how he just made that like no big deal, running suicides back and forth from the dugout to the bullpen, comes in and shuts the door with ease.
And I think it's another reason why he is the most talented baseball player of all time. And I made a TikTok recently Because Colin Cowherd, he was talking on his show about how there really is no comparison. You can't really
There is
compare him to the Babe because the Babe didn't pitch for all that long. But there is one comparison, and that is Bullet Rogan, who used to pitch and hit in the minor leagues, in the Negro leagues back during the same time that Babe Ruth was playing. And, you have managers like Casey Stengel, who won 5 straight chips with the Yankees, saying that he was the best pitcher at that time, and he was one of the best hitters in all of baseball. You ask a guy like Buck O'Neil, who's a Negro Leagues legend and a Hall of Famer in his own right, calling him one of the most talented players he's ever seen. This guy put up those types of stats, but in the modern age, in the 21st century, there is absolutely no comparison to a guy like Shohei Ohtani, when a guy and we're watching too, because wasn't the last out Lars Nootbaar? So he was up in a couple of times. So what if Nootbaar gets on and Kondo gets on, and then he has to run back and actually hit? We know that Shohei Ohtani probably still would have gotten on base, but then he comes in, faces Jeff McNeil, who hit 320 last year, was the best bat-to-ball guy in Major League Baseball. Then Mookie Betts, who's top 5 in Major League Baseball. Then Mike Trout, who's the second best player in the world, and gets them all out, gets the ground ball out from Mookie Betts, and then has one of the great battles in Major League history against Mike Trout. It just goes to show that anything on the baseball field, Shohei Ohtani does it to an elite level. We even joked around. If he was going to play right field with that arm and that speed, he might be the best right fielder defensively in Major League Baseball.
He would have great outs above average numbers, 100%. The last thing I want to say to kind of build on that point there was I had to wait a while in the post-game presser because Shohei was busy spraying champagne and having the time of his life, which was awesome. He probably got to the press room by like 12:20. And I'm like, man, I'm waiting all this time. I'm going to ask a question. And honestly, like it was kind of crazy just being able to like look at him and have him look at you. I'm like, holy shit, I'm about to ask Shohei Ohtani a question here. Yeah. Like my heart starts pounding. And I just wanted to ask him about exactly that, running back and forth. And I thought maybe like he might say, yeah, that was different. That was wild, because he's never come in relief in Major League Baseball.
You would expect that from any human being to be like, yeah, correct. It was a big adjustment, but for him, he gave a completely different answer.
Yeah, like NPB, he's barely even relieved there. WBC, he did it a couple of times, and I asked him like, how different was it? And he legitimately said, I've done it before. It was no big deal. And I'm just like, dude, like,
and hasn't he only done it 3 or 4 times in his whole life?
Like, but like for him, if he does it once, he's fine. It's like, It's like a guy, like he plays ping pong once and now he'll dominate you, or he golfs once and now he's the best. Like he's that asshole friend that's good at everything except the best in the world at probably everything that has to do with baseball, which is nuts. So that was one of the best weeks I've ever had. As you mentioned on your Instagram post, being able to do it with some of your best friends, to have Jack there, to have you there, to have Will come down and be there too, our amazing video guy who I think people will start to see more of in your live show that's coming up around the corner here. It was just an unforgettable week. And, I know that it's not that easy for everybody to just stop their lives and go attend a baseball tournament somewhere. But if you are able to, in a few years, come to go watch, whether it's in Miami, whether it's in Phoenix or wherever you could possibly go catch a game, if you can go to a WBC game, it is 100% worth it. You won't regret it. You will not regret it. That's the last thing I wanted to say on that. One of the best environments I've ever been in. And you guys have a very skewed perspective of Lone Depot Park now, because it is never going to be like that ever again until the WBC rolls back around. I can't wait to bring you when there's 4K in the stands and we'll just be walking around, sitting wherever we want.
The one last thing that I want to say about the World Baseball Classic, I've been watching the at-bat between Trout and Ohtani basically over and over again. I was on a plane and I was just watching the video because it was such an incredible at-bat. You just got the best of the best going against each other. And that slider to strike him out on 3-2 was so impressive, not only from watching it and seeing it dart from basically inside Trout's knee to the outer part of the plate, and it ended up being a ball. But one thing that I pulled away from it is that Mike Trout, he's known for having one of the best eyes in baseball, and he doesn't miss much. While you can make the jokes that Mike Trout strikes out, there's rarely times where it's a swinging strike, right? I saw Codified put something out that he rarely swings and misses on strike 3 calls. And when it's a ball off the plate, he routinely lets it go and ends up being ball four. One, I'm so glad that he struck out. Imagine a walk. Like in that at bat, imagine just like a
Yeah, that would
base
have
on
been pretty
balls. That
lame.
would have been the worst thing. So I'm glad he swung. But I was looking at that slider and thinking to myself, is that the greatest slider ever thrown? Because he's going 102. He hit 102 against Mike Trout. And then he spins off just this incredible pitch to get the best hitter on planet Earth to swing and miss on a ball outside the zone. Something that's just out of the normal for Mike Trout. The impact of it to win the World Baseball Classic, all these different factors had me thinking and sitting in my seat, whether it's true or not, but I really had this thought, was that the greatest slider ever thrown? And that's what I sat with.
That was like, if you could try to teach, because the Yankees are teaching that variation of a slider, which is that sweeper. Like that is like the gold standard of a sweeper. To your point, and I think the codify stat was that Mike Trout has never swung and missed 3 times in an at-bat, or he's only done it 24 times in his entire career. Think about how many at-bats Mike Trout's had. He's only swung and missed in the same at-bat 3 times, or 24 times, 3 swings and misses. Sorry for confusing the way that was phrased horribly, but I think people could follow. I could say it one more time. But swinging and missing 3 times in an at-bat, he's only done it 24 times. There you go. But that
with
sweeper,
over 6,000 at-bats.
Yes, like just ridiculous. That sweeper was, like, to your point, insane. And honestly, Trout took a good swing at it. Like, it wasn't like he was on his front foot. It wasn't like he looked totally off of the pitch. Like, it just broke beyond anything that his brain is used to seeing. I think that was one of the nastiest pitches I've ever seen in my life. And in that spot, to hit a couple inches off of the plate like that, with all of the adrenaline, with everything you're feeling, that is one of the craziest pitches ever. And
perfect pitch.
Man, I'm excited to see more Shohei now.
It was so great too. On the Arm Barn podcast, which you can find in our link tree, as well as all the other podcasts on our network, I was talking with Tucker, and I asked him at our World Series or World Baseball Classic preview, I said, Trout is most likely going to face Ohtani in one game or another. How do you see that at bat ending up? And Tucker, of course, lefty on the Angels, teammates with both of them. He said, if Trout can get to that first fastball, he's going to get a hit. But if he swings and misses through that, he's in trouble, and I bet Shohei strikes him out. Because his point was, Trout can get to any pitch. If he is sitting on a fastball, it doesn't matter if it's 200 miles an hour. He's going to hit it. But if for some reason he swings and miss, he is in deep trouble because of Shohei's bag. And Shohei showed it off. But another thing why I thought it was just an incredible at-bat, fastballs. 100, middle. Like, let's see what you got. He wasn't tiptoeing around the plate. He wasn't throwing a bunch of splitters. He wasn't just trying to spin him to death with sweepers. It was fastballs, and it was triple digits, and it was saying, I'm the best, you're the best, let's see who's the GOAT. And Shohei did it, and there will be bragging rights in that locker room. And I also thought it was so funny, too. You know, with a guy like Lars Nootbaar, I saw this meme, Lars Nootbaar returning to Cardinals camp with a gold medal, and Arenado and Goldie returning with a silver medal. And there was the video of Tom Brady. I think he might have been in court or something where he's just giving him like the sly smile. I just thought all these different storylines that come after the World Baseball Classic are going to be awesome. And another point is I'm really excited to see how some of these hitters and pitchers transition, right? They were playing in high level games day in, day out. How I'm hoping that this is going to help them come opening day, that they're not going to lose anything by playing kind of meaningless spring training games. They were playing in game 7 type atmospheres. I'm expecting them to keep that momentum going into the regular season and start off hot.